Hello and welcome back to EDF 4.1. Let's hop right in because we have more missions to do. Yes, we do.
This is Scout 2.
Okay.
Confirmed. It looks like this tower
So,
is the shield screen.
This mission is kind of fun
Fencers will break through the shield screen.
because it's very much a simplified version of the last one. Maybe it's more difficult and I'm just stupid and not aware. We'll see.
Soldiers other than the fencers can break through the shield screen.
We'll see.
They are highly trained and are the ones best suited for the task.
Yeah. Ah, fuck. I may have forgotten about the self-damage. Okay, Mr. Shield Bearer. Can you please fall apart? You don't say, Mr. Fencer. Anyways, yeah. So, is there anything funny today happening? No. Nothing funny. Concerning probably. Have you seen all the mass industry layoffs that are... So here's the thing. I don't know who's being laid off, except I'm seeing a lot of word from very, like, veteran game developers that it's them. So this is my perspective. Microsoft has reportedly had 14 layers of management going between, you know, an idea being proposed to an idea being implemented. 14 layers of management. This is a part of the reason why AAA games often feel like so weirdly samey, or you don't understand where the time goes. The time goes into like why do games take so long to come out? Why do so many people work on them? And why are they still crunching everybody to death?
It can block your shot, and you may be killed.
It's because so much of the game development time is just inefficiently spent waiting for, like, fucking stupidly simple things to get approved and pushed onto the work table, right? Like, obviously, like, when you have to make a new animation, there's a lot of work that has to go through it. But then add on to that, like, how much bloat there is from all of the other management steps, and you'll slowly begin to understand why, you know, AAA games are taking billions of dollars to make. Combine that with how, like, horrifically unlivable many American cities are getting, where a lot of the Western game companies are based, with ludicrously high, you know, rent and general living costs, like take San Francisco, for example. Game developers are being paid fuckloads of money to live there. Not because, you know, they would be particularly rich. No, they're working on an average salary there. That's just how much it costs to live in such a city where things are being based out of. And who's to blame? Is it the landlord? Well, yeah, who do you think is setting the prices that high? But it's very much a problem with no real solution. And, well, I mean, there are solutions, but no solutions that can be easily implemented in a place like the US. And so the end goal of this is that no matter what happens, you're kind of fucked. So now a bunch of people are being fired. And a part of me was hoping, are they restructuring by firing the managers? No, a bunch of veteran game developers got fired. And the issue is, right, oftentimes people will try to use the CEO as like an example of the company's direction, except that isn't how things work. These aren't private companies where decisions are made by the guy, you know? Gabe Newell owns his company and he can do whatever he wants, you know? He can choose to fire every single person there tomorrow and just leave. The same thing happened with the EVGA, basically, when they didn't want to, like, spin off the company and have it die as a villain, and they rather just sunsetted it. However, that's where the problems start appearing with private companies sorry, with public companies, because public companies, like Microsoft, have shareholders. And whenever you're a shareholder, that means you own shares in a company. And when you own the shares in a company, it means that you can have some influence over the decisions, including voting on many issues, being present in board meetings, that sort of stuff. And so what that means is that basically, oftentimes many of the horrifically dogshit decisions we see and stare at in confusion as to why would anybody make something that stupid, the CEO is sitting there next to you also thinking, God, why are the shareholders so stupid? The issue is, the CEO knows that if they don't nod to every single decision the stupid shareholders make, they'll just be replaced by somebody who'll do an even worse job. So, okay, it's for, like, the CEO, it's a game of push and pull, where they have to make sure that the company doesn't implode, you know, and also to ensure that the shareholders don't replace them with somebody who will make the company implode. So they sometimes have to do things that'll bring the company closer to an implosion. And sometimes it doesn't help and the company will still implode. At least you get a golden parachute. And I'm aware this sounds remarkably pro-CEO. That isn't how I'm intending this. I'm trying to just explain why things happen.
Choose loadout.
Not justify them happening.
Select a mission.
Well, what's happening right now is fucking dog
Choose
shit.
loadout.
Horrible. I hate it. I'm
Select
just trying to
missions.
explain why it
Deploying.
happens, you know? And that's sort of the big thing I feel. Sometimes people confuse the two. Because sometimes trying to explain why things happen are taken as, you know, you agreeing with them happening. And that's not the case.
Giant insects are coming out of the nest!
If that's not obvious. One of the best things they did in EDF 5 is add that sprint key, which also lets me, like, not only sprint, but also, ow, fuck. But also, like, pick up drops in a wider area.
I did it! I'm impressed! Did you see that? I've been hit! Great!
It's okay.
Not a big deal.
See? I think I may have killed more of my own men than the enemy. It's fine. But hey, that's kinda, you know, the blight of the industry. It's, at the end of the day, you know, capital comes for us all, and, yeah. It's funny because, I remember seeing, there's always, at least in the gamer crowd, there are people who are, kind of allergic to, you know, anything remotely, quote-unquote, you know, political showing up in the hobby. Even if the political things in question, oh no, are just like, you know, people trying to use that to explain to the gamer why things are happening. It's honestly sad, because it shows this kind of disconnect that a lot of people seem to have, where people, like, people don't understand that, like, you know, this has been changing, I feel, recently, but, like, for a while back then, people assumed that, like, quote-unquote, like, you know, your hobby and real life and politics were three completely separate things, you know? So, like, whenever, you know, politics are happening, that is something separate from your hobby. And sadly, as, you know, from the different segments where I discuss these things, the uni segment has been so flawed that everything in life is kind of connected. And that regardless of how you may want to remain, you know, relatively either non-political or just not discuss it in the videos, right? At the end of the time, you know, no matter if a discussion will go on for long enough, it will eventually boil down to, you know, politics, because that's where things lead to. What is the cause of all the world's problems? It's probably something somewhat related to politics. Like, try to discuss something like, you know, geology. Eventually you'll go down the topic of, you know, fucking climate change, and you'll go over, like, how oil companies are basically, you know, paying, you know, the rich people are basically paying off world governments and, you know, online grifters to pretend like it's not real, because they want to destroy the planet even further, Final Fantasy VII style. And it's just one of those things where, you know, eventually, no matter what, slowly but surely,
This is Ranger 7. The enemy is ahead. There's no way we
that
can
is
overcome them on
what
our own.
the conversation will turn to.
HQ to Storm Team.
And there really
Ranger
is
7
no
ahead of
solution.
you. Join them.
There is absolutely no solution.
Ranger 7, Storm Team is headed your way.
Except just kind of
Ranger 7. Roger.
educating yourself, I guess, on this stuff, so that you don't say stupid stuff.
Fight with you.
And, you know, there are a lot of reactionary sort of feelings a lot of people may get at first,
You already told
especially if they don't know, you know,
us. There was a hero that
about
saved
anything
us.
political, and it feels like they're being thrust into it with no prior warning. And, I mean, that's the whole point of it, right? People want, like, like, you know, the whole point of it is that people want you to, like, you know, the people in power want you to assume the dumbest things so that you're never ineffective. That is why there's been so much nihilism happening recently online. Why so many, like, there's the whole, like, you know, far-right pipeline, whose entire point is sort of nihilism.
Show you how strong we really are.
Because, you know, people funding this, you know, people funding the far-right propaganda know that nihilism is not going to ever result in any change, because it's, you know, it's nihilistic. And, that's sort of course, I'm not talking about nihilism in a, let's call it, you know, strictly Nietzschean sense. I'm talking about it in a colloquial sense, but you get me, right? And, you know, like, that does result in great harm happening to normal human individuals when, you know, the propaganda spreads. But it never results in anything that will that negatively affect the bottom lines of these companies, so they choose to ignore
Fencer
it,
team here.
or,
We're in
in some
combat.
cases,
Requesting backup.
directly promote it.
Strategic Command HQ to Storm Team. There is a team in battle. Go back them
It's sad. And there is no solution. I mean, there are solutions, but again, you know, the solutions would require, well, for one, lying to be illegal. And that is something that, as time has gone on, that is my most extreme belief. I believe that there should be... It's just, you know, okay, maybe I shouldn't have been... Yeah, it probably wasn't a smart... Oh, okay, that really wasn't a smart idea. Anyways, like, there should be some kind of punishment to you just, like, purposefully lying in order to, you know, fulfill some kind of agenda. Or especially, like, some kind of goal. Especially for a company. I mean, you know, the only, like, you know, we already have laws against, like, you know, defamation, libel, slander, because we understand, like, the personal harm that can be caused if this kind of harm spreads. Where, like, you know, if it was legal for me to just, like, pick any random person wherever and just publicly start accusing them of all kinds of horrific things, and they would have no, you know, and they would have no way of defending themselves except, like, publicly having to, you know, make statements, that wouldn't be a functional society. However, for some reason, just being able to lie about things en masse in a way where you don't defame any particular person, just movements at large, that's apparently fine.
Was successful in destroying the nest. However, the fight was brutal and there were many casualties.
And it makes no sense. It makes me wonder, you know, it's the question of, like, how can a civilization that functions on that kind of, like, stupid injustice keep on working, and more, it seems the answer is, no, it can't. Like, more and more, it seems that the answer to a lot of the questions of, like, how can a civilization where lies aren't punished keep the truth, you know, keep saying the truth, it seems the answer is that it just can't. There's just no way to do it except punishing law.
Next battle is going to be violent too. That's not true.
Wing diver team, commence operation.
Aren't there any enemies?
And it's one of those things where, you know, everybody lies, right? Like, everybody will lie to push their stuff forwards. Except no. Because, believe it or not, there are people who don't need to lie. People who don't need to, like, bullshit and backstab you into, like, believing what they, you know, actually think. Like, for instance, how often... Like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, Eastern Europe or whatever, right? In Eastern Europe, you have the political party of, like, family country gone. What do? Government bribery and corruption. Which government am I talking about? Well, there's a bunch of them. Pick one. It's Eastern Europe. You know, it's what they're doing is lying. And I feel like that kind of stuff.
Understood.
I feel like these lies are the worst thing we're facing so far. And it's like, you know, obviously whenever people think about it, it's, people think about lying in a more sort of personal way. That's not really something I care about. Like, okay, I understand, but, like, I understand the point, but, like, I don't really think society is... I mean, it is a worse place when people lie about video games, but, like, there are more important fish to be fried than, you know, video games. But hey, it is what it is.
Intention of giving it to anyone.
I just want my video games, okay? Hey, we did it. It's one of those things, you know, I didn't want to be political. And then...
Select a mission.
My hobby started...
Choose loadout.
Being attacked.
Choose loadout.
By, you know, giant
Choose
corporations.
loadout.
And other
Rangers
kinds
can
of
equip
special
2
interest
weapons.
groups, and,
Choose loadout.
it's just sad,
Rangers can
and there's
equip
nothing
2
you can
weapons.
do about it. Oh, and to clarify, when I say special interest groups, I mean, like,
Deploying.
I don't mean, like, blue hair and pronouns. Those have always been a part of gaming. I mean, like, have you seen, like, the recent stuff where they were trying to get a bunch of more spicy games kicked off of Steam because of these, quote-unquote, you know, concerned parent groups? That kind of bullshit. These are the infestations in gaming that I'm worried about. I am fine with something that was always a part of gaming. And I know, like, some people think, like, wait, was that always a part of gaming? Yeah, it was just less discussed back then than it is today. It is partially because, well, it's partially self-selection. Oh, oops. It's partially self-selection because, like, a lot of the time, whenever there's a hobby that is, you know, programming before it became a real job in game development, a lot of people started as hobbyists, and, you know, these kinds of sort of, let's call them internal hobbies, that, you know, start indoors at home, often are more alluring to people who, for some reason, may not be as fitting of the social norms at the time. And then it also tends to sort of push away, you know, a lot of people who would otherwise, you know, like, you know, a lot of people who are more sort of normie, because you know, to them, it's just not something they're interested in. It's also kind of funny where I'm routinely reminded that there were people who weren't allowed to play Pokemon because, like, you know, the TV told them that there were demons in the show. But yeah, there's also the whole story. Sadly, I don't know enough about this to make, like, that many coherent arguments, which maybe is a fault of mine. But, like, for instance, women were fundamental in, like, a lot of game development. But, like, people just tend not to really think of them as much, which I find... I mean, it's expected, but interesting. And, yeah, it's quite a few miles. I'm pretty sure, I forget which fighting game it was, but I know that, like, there was this fighting game. I think it may have been Street Fighter, but I don't want to say it because if I'm wrong, I'll look stupid. Where, like, women were, like, a huge part of the development team. So, like, oftentimes people just don't really discuss it much. Amy Hennig was such a colossal influence on games like Soul Reaver, Uncharted, you know, etc., etc. And it's really a shame. Because, like, I don't know when it kind of became this way, but gaming was always a very, like, gender-neutral hobby. It's just that, like, for years and years, people have assumed gender... Like, you know, people have assumed boys like serious stuff, girls like unserious stuff, or whatever the fuck. So for a while, like, a lot of the time, girls would be pushed away from most games because their parents would only buy them girl games. I remember watching... I think there's a good Moon Channel video about this. Where he goes over... When he goes over, like, a lot of the girl games and why it was a remarkably dog shit time in the industry to be, like, a young girl gamer or whatever. But, like, regardless of that, I think we can all kind of see and understand that, like, there were always some, you know, obviously there are some genres of games which girls like more. Or maybe specific games. This is kind of why, like, people underestimate how much value can come from just adding a female protagonist in a game. Because, obviously, like, to us guys, it seems, you know, whatever. Like, I could, like, you know, from my own personal perspective, I couldn't give less of a shit. You know, the only issue is, you know, that's the thing when you don't have, like, that's when you think about yourself. But when you think about how, you know, especially in games where, like, you know, when you realize that you aren't really the default, and that you're just one of multiple options. Oh my god. Come on, trick shot. There we go.
This is headquarters. Abort operation.
Whenever you're just like, whenever you realize you're just like one of multiple options and the world doesn't revolve around you, it just becomes a lot easier to sort of accept that, you know, different people exist, and that sometimes it's fine to make, like, some specific parts of games not appeal to you.
Rangers can equip 2 weapons.
Like, you know, for instance, Atelier has almost exclusively
Deploying.
female protagonists, I believe. I know Atelier is Lariana lets you choose either the male or the female one at the start, but, like, very few things change. And also, like, I think the female one's, like, the sort of, like, soft default.
Requesting permission to retreat.
But yeah, it's very much one of those things where
We will not accept retreat.
I never thought about it until, like, semi-recently. And it's interesting. Of course, there will always be the sort of losers among the, like, gamer crowd who will see the women as a, you know, personal attack, which... One thing which I've always found funny, I won't go on this for long because it's just a funny thing. A lot of straight men seem to really hate women, and I've never understood. Because, I don't know, I like women. I don't know, like, I feel like, you know, there has to be some kind of, you know, Sigmund Freud would love investigating, you know, these kinds of people, and, like, the way they work and the way they think, you know? There is something very Freudian in a lot of, like, modern-day women hating, right? Because, like, if you look at a lot of, like, the sexism from, like, back in the day, like, you know, old-timey sexism, right? It very much, it was designed around the idea that, like, oh yeah, men, you know, it was designed around this, obviously wrong to clarify, you know, but it was designed around this sort of idea of everything that women, like, you know, oh, women don't have the rights to vote? Well, that is because men are the chivalrous heroes that will, you know, ensure that for both men and women good things happen. And then I'm pretty sure the suffragettes bombed people, and then eventually, like, you know, they were allowed to vote. Anyways, so after that ended, you know, there's still obviously a lot of, like, stuff which stems from the fact that, there is still a lot of, like, you know, like, when you actually start looking into it, things that's remarkably interesting. Like, you know, for instance, some people, this was, like, a common talking point, like, maybe a decade ago, which is, like, women tend to win a lot more custody battles than men do. But that is, weirdly, a result of how, like, society is generally biased towards men in most places. Because, you know, there's this idea, due to the way, like, a lot of society is structured and a lot of people are conditioned to think, that men are the stronger, the weak, you know, men are the stronger, the braver, the wild animal, and women are, you know, the weak, the child-raising. And obviously, within this system, it makes sense why women would be seen as the person who would be more capable of taking care of a child. Which is stupid and wrong, obviously, just as it's stupid and wrong to assume that, like, a woman couldn't be a car mechanic because of sexism, I don't know. However, it's just a consequence, it's just an example of how, like, you know, that kind of system of le men less strong can actually hurt men. Like, it's also like how, you know, people often discuss in, you know, male-centric spaces how men's feelings aren't respected, but then, like, a lot of it comes from the whole idea that every single problem that a man has can be solved by, like, manning. Oh my fucking god! What are you doing, dude? You know, every single problem can be resolved by, like, going to the gym, cleaning your room, and actually seeking therapy or, like, actually finding real solutions. Nah, that's what women do. Why are these hectors on crack? Why are they so quick? And it's one of those things that often, like, remains undiscussed because it's very much like a, it's very much like an older thing. You know, these days, people don't discuss this stuff as much because, like, there are other, more important issues to go over. But at the end of the day, every single modern issue which we still see in today's society kind of still stems from the fact that that's how society is built. Like, for instance, you know, the whole, like, you know how there's, like, this whole idea, man, you know, the whole man be strong, man be this, man be that, is why you have people like Clavicular blowing up their body in order to fit, like, some kind of stupid, unrealistic set of expectations that women don't even have for them. But in fact, these are expectations that are being set by other men. It's all because, like, you know, of the system. So much of, like, transphobia is fundamentally, when you boil it down, an idea that, like, you know, this, you know, there's a fundamental difference between the genders and you should, quote-unquote, know your place. And the only reason why I don't believe in stupid, like, gender essentialism bullshit is because I did a little bit of research about how the human body works, and discussed it with, like, people who know a lot more about biology than me. You know, not people who failed high school biology, like people who actually do this stuff for a living. And I've read the things they wrote and discussed it with me. And, like, I'll be real with you, like, the more you think about it, gender is, like, remarkably, and, like, sex is remarkably, like, surface level, as some things go. But also, like, in other places, it is remarkably important. For instance, if you have no testosterone or no estrogen in your body, you will die. No matter, like, no matter what your, like, gender or whatever is, you need some amount of both of them. Otherwise, your body will begin to fall apart, because even if you're like a guy, you still have some amount of estrogen, you know, vice versa. These are still remarkably important chemicals for other bodily processes, not just, like, the gender ones, which people only discuss. Like, and it's something which nobody talks about, because people just don't have the experience, right? And it's sad. Because I feel like, you know, if people were actually discussing this sort of stuff, a lot of the bullshit happening wouldn't be happening, but of course, you know, people don't want to discuss it. People just want to... People just want to sort of... Oh no, I'm dead. The instructions help me! You know, it's sad, really. That's all I can really say, you know? And, like, it's the question of, like, why would I care? And that's the funny part, right? I don't have any real reasons to give a shit. The only reason I do is because I just find it really gross when I see other people suffer. Especially for things... Oh my god. Oh, I'm dead. Especially for things that, like, are, you know, nothing. Like, you know, at least when somebody's... Like, at least when somebody volunteered to, like, fight in a, like, genocidal invasion, and then you see them die in a trench, you can at least think to yourself, like, well, what did he expect would happen, you know? Even if you still do kind of feel like, you know, it's a shame we could, it's a shame still. Maybe that's the empath part of me speaking, right? But again, you know, when you, it's just, I don't know, I feel like the idea that you shouldn't care for the plight of those who aren't related to you is just childish and stupid. Because at the end of the day, what happened to them today could very well happen to you tomorrow. You think it won't. You think there's no way that it's gonna happen to you. And then, what happens when, for instance, very important, like, very important medication for you, what if at some point in time your balls stop working, and now you have to, you know, take chemicals that are, well, I say chemicals in a neutral sense, because everything's chemical. But yeah, you have to take medication, which now you can't properly get anymore, because of laws that you thought wouldn't affect you. Oops, now they do. And what happens to you now? I don't know. Good luck, buddy. You know, it could all very quickly turn on you, and if you're not, you know, you have to, like, you know, look at it from that point of view. But truthfully, the big reason for all this is that some people just need excuses to be hateful, and it's really that simple, and nothing else is. To a lot of people, like, that's the beginning and ending of it, and they don't care about anything else. It's sad and pathetic, but what can you do? Anyways, yeah, that's gonna be it for this episode. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.